They said God sent the storm to test me, little boy whispered to Biker what he discovered. The small town was quiet that morning, the kind of quiet that felt almost like the world was holding its breath. Birds chirped softly in the trees, and the air smelled faintly of wet earth from the night's rain. But underneath that peaceful calm, there was an uneasy tension. Everyone in the town knew that the storm was coming. They had been hearing warnings all week, whispers of a big storm that could sweep through like a giant hand, tearing at the roofs, trees, and lives of the people who lived there. It was the kind of storm that made grown men worry and children cling tightly to their parents. In a small, modest house at the edge of town lived a boy named Liam. He was only 8 years old, with messy brown hair that constantly fell into his bright, curious eyes. His hands were small and calloused from helping his grandmother with chores around the house, but his heart was full of questions and a kind of courage that didn't yet know its own limits. Liam had lost his parents a few years ago in a car accident, and since then he had been living with his grandmother, a kind but sometimes strict woman who did her best to protect him. She had always told him, "The world can be a hard place, Liam, but you are stronger than you know." Today, however, the world seemed impossibly hard. Liam sat on the old wooden porch, hugging his knees to his chest. The wind had already begun to pick up, carrying with it the scent of wet leaves and something metallic in the air, an almost electric tension that made his skin prickle. He watched as dark clouds rolled across the sky, swallowing the sunlight, and he felt a pit of worry in his stomach. "It's coming," he whispered to himself, though the wind carried his words away before anyone could hear. People in town had been saying strange things about this storm. Some whispered that it was a punishment from God, a test of faith. Others said it was simply nature showing its power, but even those explanations didn't calm the fear that ran like a river through the town. Liam had heard the grown-ups talk, and it left him confused. He didn't understand why storms had to happen, or why God would want to test a small boy like him. He wanted to ask someone, anyone, but no one seemed to have answers that made sense to him. Just then, a sound of rumbling tires on the gravel road caught his attention. He squinted into the distance and saw a motorcycle approaching. The biker was tall and strong-looking, wearing a leather jacket that had clearly seen better days. His face was partly hidden under a helmet, but his eyes were sharp and kind, watching the world with a mix of alertness and calm. Liam had seen him before, often riding through the town without stopping, a lone figure passing like a shadow on the road. Today, though, the biker slowed down. He stopped near Liam's porch and lifted his helmet, revealing a gentle smile that didn't quite match the ruggedness of his appearance. Liam felt a strange mix of fear and curiosity. He had never spoken to the biker before, but something about him made Liam want to share his worries. Without thinking, he whispered almost to himself, "I'm scared. They said God sent this storm to test me." The biker's eyes softened. He crouched down to Liam's level, resting his elbows on his knees. "A test, huh?" he said, his voice low but warm. "That's what they're saying," Liam nodded, looking down at his hands. "I don't know what it means. I don't know why it would be me. I'm just a kid. I don't think I can do it." His voice trembled, and a tear slipped down his cheek. He quickly wiped it away, embarrassed. The biker smiled gently, not in a mocking way, but in a way that made Liam feel like someone truly understood. "You know," he said, "sometimes people say storms are tests because they're afraid of what they don't understand. But it's not always about being punished or proving something. Sometimes it's just life showing us we're stronger than we think." Liam looked up, unsure. "Stronger than I think, but I'm just me. I don't have magic or anything." The biker chuckled softly. "No magic needed. Courage doesn't come from magic. It comes from trying even when you're scared. And sometimes the smallest people, the ones who don't look like they can handle much, turn out to be the bravest." Liam's chest felt a little lighter. He wanted to believe the biker, but fear still clung to him like a shadow. He looked back at the sky. The clouds were thicker now, darker than before, and the wind had begun to tug at his hair. Leaves and small twigs danced across the yard, moving like tiny spirits warning of the storm to come. Liam shivered. "I don't want anything bad to happen," he whispered. "I just want to be safe." The biker nodded, understanding more than Liam could see. "You will be safe if you're careful, and if you remember that storms, big or small, don't last forever. And the world, well, it has a way of showing you help is often closer than you think. Sometimes it comes from strangers, sometimes from friends, sometimes even from yourself. Liam watched him, amazed. It was strange to think that a stranger could say something so comforting, something that made the fear in his chest shrink just a little. He wanted to ask more questions, but the words got stuck in his throat as the first distant rumbles of thunder rolled over the hills. It was far away for now, but the sound was deep and frightening, vibrating in the ground and in Liam's chest. The biker looked up at the sky, his face serious now. "Looks like it's getting closer. You might want to get inside soon, Liam." Liam nodded, slowly letting go of his knees and standing up. He followed the biker's gaze to the dark clouds, now moving faster, almost as if they were chasing each other across the sky. His grandmother's voice called from inside the house, telling him to come in and stay safe. He hesitated, then turned and ran inside, the biker's presence lingering in his mind like a warm light in the dark. Inside the house, Liam's grandmother fussed over him, checking that he had everything he needed. She had a look of worry on her face, the kind that came from someone who had seen life's hardships and wanted to protect the child in front of them from all of it. Liam hugged her tightly, but his thoughts were elsewhere. He kept thinking about the biker and the words he had said, the idea that courage wasn't about not being scared. It was about facing the fear anyway. As the wind howled outside and the first drops of rain tapped against the windows, Liam sat by the living room window, watching the storm approach. He remembered the biker's words, repeating them softly to himself. The smallest people can be the bravest. Help is often closer than you think. Courage comes from trying even when you're scared. For the first time that day, Liam didn't feel completely alone. The fear was still there, but it was mixed with something else, hope. And even though he didn't fully understand what lay ahead, he knew one thing: he was not entirely powerless. There were people in the world like the biker who cared. There were lessons to learn and ways to be brave that didn't require magic, only heart. The storm was coming, that was certain. But for the first time in a long time, Liam felt a tiny spark inside him, a small flame of courage that refused to be snuffed out. And though the clouds loomed dark and heavy, and the wind screamed like a wild animal, Liam whispered to himself one last time, "I will try. I will be brave." And with that, the quiet little house on the edge of town held its breath, waiting for the storm that would soon arrive, and the boy who was about to discover just how strong he really was. The storm came faster than anyone expected. By mid-afternoon, the sky had turned a deep, dark gray, and the wind had grown into a constant, howling roar. Trees bent under the force of gusts, and leaves swirled through the air like tiny, green tornadoes. Liam stood at the living room window, pressed close to the glass, his small hands leaving damp prints as he watched the world outside. Rain had begun to fall in sheets, hammering the roof and splashing against the windows with a sound that made his heart race. He thought about the biker, wondering if he was out there somewhere battling the storm like a silent hero. The boy's mind kept replaying their earlier conversation, the way the biker had knelt to his level, the gentle wisdom in his voice. Courage comes from trying even when you're scared. Liam repeated the words softly, clinging to them like a life raft. Suddenly, a loud crack of thunder shook the house. Liam jumped back, clutching his chest. Lightning lit up the room for a brief second, making the familiar surroundings of his home look strange and unfamiliar. His grandmother's voice called out to him, "Liam, stay away from the windows. Go sit on the sofa." He obeyed, though every instinct in him screamed to see the storm, to feel it, to understand it. The wind battered the house, rattling the old wooden walls, and the rain seemed to strike the earth in endless sheets. Liam watched from a distance, the fear in his chest mixing with a strange fascination. Storms had always scared him, but he couldn't deny the strange beauty and the power of nature, the way the lightning split the sky in silver threads. As the hours passed, the storm grew stronger. Outside, the streets began to flood, and the river that ran through town swelled, sending water rushing toward the houses on its banks. Trees were uprooted, and power lines swayed dangerously, threatening to snap at any moment. People who had waited it out inside their homes now ventured out cautiously, helping neighbors move furniture or clear debris. Liam watched them with wide eyes, realizing that fear didn't stop life from moving forward. Then, through the pounding rain and the howling wind, Liam spotted the biker again. He was moving carefully through the storm, balancing himself against the wind and the slick ground. His leather jacket was soaked, his helmet glinting with raindrops, but he seemed unafraid. More than that, he was helping people. First, He guided an elderly woman across a flooded street, holding an umbrella over her head as she clutched her groceries. Then he stopped to untangle a dog caught in debris, speaking softly to calm the frightened animal. Liam's eyes widened. The biker wasn't just surviving the storm, he was facing it head-on and helping others. Liam whispered to himself, maybe courage really is about trying even when you're scared. The boy wanted to do something too, to be brave like the biker. He hesitated for a moment, thinking of his grandmother's warning to stay inside. But then he remembered what the biker had said about help being closer than you think, and about even small acts showing strength. With a deep breath, Liam decided to step outside, grabbing his raincoat and boots. His grandmother watched him, alarm and worry written clearly on her face, but she didn't stop him. There was a spark in Liam's eyes she hadn't seen in a long time. The rain hit him instantly, cold and heavy, soaking through his coat and plastering his hair to his forehead. He shivered but kept moving, his small boots splashing through puddles as he made his way toward the street. The wind tugged at him, almost as if it were trying to push him back inside, but he pressed forward. As he got closer to the biker, he noticed something surprising. The biker wasn't just helping people in big ways. He noticed the small things too. He picked up fallen branches that could block someone's path, comforted children who were scared of the thunder, and even helped a young boy rescue his toy boat from the rushing floodwaters. Each act was quiet, almost unnoticed, but each one made a difference. Liam realized then that bravery wasn't always loud or dramatic. It could be gentle, steady, and kind. "Hey there," the biker said when he saw Liam approaching, raising a gloved hand in greeting. His voice was calm over the roar of the storm. "You came out to see for yourself." Liam nodded, his teeth chattering. I want to help, I want to be brave." The biker smiled, adjusting his helmet so the rain didn't get in his eyes. "You can start small. Even the smallest help can mean the world when people are scared." Together, they moved through the neighborhood. Liam carried small supplies, bottles of water, sandwiches, and blankets that neighbors had packed for anyone stranded by the storm. It wasn't heroic in the movie's sense, but each step gave him a sense of purpose. He realized that courage wasn't about fighting the storm. It was about facing it and doing what you could to make a difference. At one point, they came across a family trapped inside a house that had partially flooded. Water was rising slowly, and panic was beginning to show on their faces. The biker guided them calmly, telling Liam to help carry small items to higher ground. Liam's hands shook as he lifted a box of clothes, but the biker's encouraging nods gave him strength. By the time they got everything and everyone safely out of the house, Liam felt a pride he had never known before. He noticed that the people they helped weren't looking for thanks. They were simply relieved and grateful, smiles breaking through their fear. Liam understood something new. Bravery could be quiet, unnoticed, but it left a mark on the world anyway. The storm didn't have to be about punishment. It could be a chance to show kindness and strength. Hours passed, and the storm showed no sign of slowing. Liam was exhausted, drenched, and shivering, but he didn't want to stop. Every person they helped, every small act of courage filled him with confidence. He began to realize that the storm was teaching him something, just like the biker had said. Courage wasn't the absence of fear, it was moving forward despite it. At one point, the biker stopped near the edge of town, where the river was closest to overflowing. Liam watched in awe as the biker rescued a family pet from the rushing water, carefully holding the small dog above his head as he waded through the current. Liam's heart pounded, but he remembered the lessons he had learned that day. He stepped forward, helping the biker lift a heavy branch so the dog could safely escape. For a moment, fear almost stopped him, but then he remembered the small steps he had already taken, the lives they had helped, and the trust the biker had placed in him. When they were done, Liam felt an incredible mix of exhaustion and triumph. He was soaked, muddy, and tired, but he had done something. He had faced fear and taken action, and for the first time he felt like he had a small part of the world under his control. He realized that the biker wasn't just a helper. He was a teacher, showing Liam that bravery could be learned through action, not just words. By evening, the storm began to slow slightly. The rain was still heavy, and the wind still strong, but it no longer seemed as terrifying as it had in the early hours. Liam and the biker returned to the boys' neighborhood, helping a few last families before calling it a day. Liam's grandmother was waiting, worry etched on her face, but also a quiet pride she couldn't hide. Liam hugged her tightly, dripping wet but smiling. I helped, he said simply. His grandmother looked into his eyes, seeing not just the soaked clothes but the growth within him. She smiled, tears of relief and pride forming at the corners of her eyes. I see that, Liam. I really see that. Liam glanced toward where the biker had parked his motorcycle. The man gave a small wave before riding away, disappearing into the storm. Even though he was gone, Liam felt his presence, the lessons he had learned, and the courage that had begun to grow inside him. That night, as Liam lay in bed wrapped in a thick blanket, listening to the last raindrops tapping against the window, he thought about everything he had seen and done. The fear he had felt earlier hadn't disappeared, but it had changed. It wasn't something that could stop him anymore. It was something he could face. He understood now that the storm wasn't a punishment or a test from God. It was life itself, showing him that even a small boy could do brave things. He whispered softly to himself, the words almost lost in the quiet of the house. Maybe I am stronger than I think. And with that thought, Liam finally drifted into a deep, peaceful sleep, ready for whatever the next day might bring. The morning after the storm, the world seemed different. The heavy clouds had moved on, leaving the sky a pale blue, streaked with the soft glow of sunlight. The air smelled fresh, like everything had been washed clean, and the town itself looked transformed. Trees that had swayed dangerously the day before now stood proudly, glistening with raindrops. Puddles reflected the sunlight, creating tiny mirrors across the streets. Even though the storm had caused damage, there was a strange beauty in the way life seemed to have survived, strong and steady. Liam woke to the quiet chirping of birds, a sound that felt almost magical after the thunderous roar of the storm. He stretched and looked around his small room, noticing the little things he had missed before. His bookshelf neatly lined with stories, his grandmother's knitting on the table, the small plant by the window that had somehow survived the night. Everything seemed peaceful, but Liam couldn't shake the memory of the day before, the wind, the rain, the fear, and the courage he had discovered. He got dressed quickly, pulling on his boots and a warm sweater, and ran downstairs. His grandmother was already up, preparing breakfast, though she glanced at him with concern. "You're not going out today, are you?" she asked softly, worried about the aftermath of the storm. I just want to see how everyone is doing," Liam said, a small smile on his face. "And maybe I can help." His grandmother studied him for a moment, seeing the determination in his eyes. She nodded slowly. "Be careful, Liam, and stay close to people you trust." Outside, the town was alive in a new way. People were assessing the damage, clearing debris, and helping neighbors repair what had been broken. Liam could see families working together, lending tools and sharing food. The fear of the storm had faded, replaced with a sense of community and resilience. He remembered the biker's words. Courage wasn't about not being scared, it was about acting despite fear, and helping others was a powerful way to do that. Liam wandered through the streets, his small boots squishing in the mud. He saw familiar faces, neighbors he had only exchanged brief greetings with before. Now they smiled at him, some nodding in acknowledgement of his efforts yesterday. The little boy who had once been scared and timid was becoming someone people noticed. It wasn't because he had done heroic acts like the biker, but because he had shown a willingness to care and act. He spotted the biker again, standing by the edge of the river where some fallen branches were still tangled together, threatening to block the flow. The biker looked up as Liam approached. "Back for more adventure?" he said with a small grin. Liam laughed softly, shaking his head. "Not adventure, just helping." The biker nodded approvingly. "Helping is always an adventure in its own way." Today you'll see that even small actions can change a lot. They moved through the town together, Liam carrying supplies, water, and blankets that had been donated by neighbors. The biker taught him how to assess where help was needed most, how to offer encouragement to scared or tired people, and how even a smile could make someone feel safer. Liam listened carefully, absorbing every word. He realized that courage wasn't only about facing danger. It was about noticing what others needed and acting, even when it was uncomfortable or tiring. As they walked, Liam noticed a young girl sitting alone on a broken bench, hugging her knees. She looked around, frightened by the remnants of the storm, and tears ran down her cheeks. Liam felt a pang of empathy. He remembered his own fear during the storm and the comfort he had found in the biker's words. He approached her slowly. "Hi, are you okay?" he asked softly. The girl looked up, startled, but then nodded. I lost my puppy yesterday. He ran off when the storm started. I don't know where he is." Liam's heart ached for her. He thought about the little dog the biker had rescued yesterday and felt a surge of determination. "We'll find him," he said firmly, though his voice was gentle. "I can help." The biker watched silently, letting Liam take the lead. Together, the boy and the girl searched the nearby yards, calling out the puppy's name, looking under fallen branches, and checking behind fences. After a tense hour, they heard a faint bark from a pile of debris. Liam rushed over carefully and found the small, trembling puppy trapped between broken branches. He lifted it gently, handing it to the girl, whose face lit up with joy. "Thank you," she whispered, hugging the puppy tightly. Liam smiled, feeling warmth spread through his chest. He realized something important. Courage wasn't just about facing storms, it was about helping others face theirs. The rest of the morning passed in a blur of small acts of kindness. Liam helped neighbors carry groceries, guided children to safer areas, and even helped his grandmother repair a small fence that had been damaged. With each task, his confidence grew. The fear that had gripped him during the storm was still there, but it no longer controlled him. Instead, it became a companion that reminded him to be careful, thoughtful, and brave. Around midday, Liam and the biker reached the old playground at the center of town. The storm had damaged the swings and slides, and some of the wooden structures were broken or splintered. Children were cautiously returning, their curiosity overcoming their fear. Liam saw the opportunity to teach them, just as the biker had taught him. "Do you want to help me fix this?" Liam asked the children, pointing to the broken swing. They nodded eagerly, and together they worked carefully, supervised by the biker. Liam handed out pieces of wood, held nails, and offered encouragement. The children laughed when a plank didn't fit properly and cheered when it finally snapped into place. Liam felt proud, not because he had fixed something perfectly, but because he had helped others learn and feel safe again. Afterward, they moved to the town square, where some shops had been damaged. The biker taught Liam how to check for hazards and help clean up safely. They assisted shopkeepers in moving debris and securing windows. Liam noticed that every person they helped seemed to regain a sense of hope, a spark of determination that mirrored his own. It was as if the town itself was healing, piece by piece, with each act of kindness. By late afternoon, Liam was exhausted, his clothes muddy and wet, but his spirit was soaring. He realized that the storm had given him something unexpected, a chance to see himself differently. He had faced fear, helped others, and discovered that bravery wasn't something distant or magical. It was something that could grow inside a person, one small act at a time. The biker sat beside him on a low wall, watching the children play on the repaired playground. "You did well today, Liam," he said quietly. "Not because you were fearless, but because you chose to act despite fear. That's the kind of courage that matters." Liam smiled, feeling the truth of those words sink deep into his heart. I never thought I could do all this," he admitted. "I was so scared yesterday, but now I feel like I can." The biker nodded. "And you can. Every storm, every challenge is a chance to see what's inside you. Some people don't get the chance to face it so directly, so pay attention. Learn from it, and remember that even the smallest person can make a big difference." Liam looked around at the town, at the families rebuilding their homes, at the children laughing and playing again, at the neighbors helping each other. He realized the biker was right. Courage wasn't about being a hero in a storybook. It was about noticing what needed to be done and stepping up, even in small ways. The storm hadn't just tested him, it had shown him who he could be. As the sun began to set, casting long, golden shadows across the streets, Liam returned home. He helped his grandmother carry the last of the supplies inside, sharing stories of the day's events. She listened, pride shining in her eyes, and hugged him tightly. "I see it, Liam. You're growing into someone brave and kind." That night, as Liam lay in bed, he thought about the storm, the fear, and the courage he had discovered. He remembered the girl and her lost puppy, the neighbors they had helped, and the children learning at the playground. Each memory was a reminder that bravery could be gentle, quiet, and persistent. He whispered softly to himself, as he had many times before. Maybe courage isn't about not being scared, maybe it's about what you do when you are. And for the first time, he felt a deep, lasting confidence. The storm had passed, but its lessons remained, etched into his heart. Liam knew that challenges would come again in different forms, But he now had something stronger than fear. He had the courage to face them, and the understanding that even small acts could change the world. The world outside his window was calm and quiet, but inside Liam a fire had been lit. A fire that would guide him through storms, both literal and in life, for years to come. The days after the storm passed slowly, almost like the town itself was catching its breath. The sun rose early each morning, shining on streets still wet with puddles and glistening roofs. Life returned to a steady rhythm, with neighbors clearing debris, repairing fences, and planting new flowers in yards where the storm had torn old ones away. There was still work to be done, but the sense of fear that had gripped the town was gone, replaced with hope and quiet determination. Liam woke that morning with a lightness in his chest he hadn't felt before. The storm had changed him, though he wasn't sure exactly how. He got out of bed and looked out his window, noticing the small details that had gone unnoticed before. The way the sun reflected off the puddles, the birds perched on branches, the soft rustling of leaves in a gentle breeze. It was as if the world had been painted anew, and he felt a part of it, connected in a way he hadn't understood before. After breakfast, he slipped on his boots and raincoat, not because there was rain, but because he wanted to step outside and see how everyone was faring. His grandmother watched him, her expression a mixture of concern and pride. "Be careful, Liam," she said, as she often did. "And remember, courage isn't just about storms, it's about life." Liam nodded. He remembered the lessons of the biker, the way he had shown him that courage could be quiet, steady, and kind. He understood now that the real storms weren't always in the sky. They could be in people's lives, in challenges that seemed small but felt overwhelming, in moments when fear threatened to stop you from acting. As he walked through the town, Liam noticed the subtle signs of recovery. Neighbors were talking and laughing again, children were playing cautiously on repaired swings, and shopkeepers had reopened their doors. Even small acts of kindness were making a difference. Someone helping an elderly neighbor sweep their porch, another carrying groceries for a family whose car was stuck in mud. Liam smiled, seeing how the smallest actions could ripple outward, touching many lives. He wandered toward the edge of town, where the river still ran high from the storm's floodwaters. There he saw the biker again, standing quietly on a small rise, watching the water flow. The man turned as Liam approached and offered a small nod. "Good morning, Liam," he said. "Ready for another day of learning?" Liam smiled, feeling a warmth spread through his chest. "Yes, I want to do more. I want to keep helping." The biker gestured toward the riverbank, where a small group of people were struggling to clear debris and secure a fence damaged in the flood. "Then let's get to work," he said. "Every bit helps, no matter how small." Together they worked with the townspeople, lifting branches, tying down loose boards, and moving stones to reinforce the bank. Liam realized that helping wasn't always exciting or heroic. It was often repetitive, tiring, and messy. Yet with each action he felt a quiet satisfaction, knowing that his efforts were making a difference. As they paused to catch their breath, Liam noticed a young boy sitting alone on a fallen log, holding a small, tattered toy in his hands. His eyes were wide and frightened, and he seemed unsure how to join the others. Liam remembered how he had felt during the storm, scared and unsure of what to do. He approached the boy carefully. "Hi," he said softly. "Do you want to help us fix the fence?" The boy hesitated, looking at Liam with uncertainty. I don't know how," he admitted. "That's okay," Liam said gently. "I'll show you. You can do it one step at a time." Together they moved small branches, worked side by side, and slowly the boy began to smile. Liam realized that courage could be contagious. When one person showed bravery, it encouraged others to try, even when they were afraid. By the time the fence was secure, the boys' laughter rang through the air, bright and clear, and Liam felt a deep sense of pride. Later that afternoon, Liam wandered to the park, where a small crowd had gathered to assess the playground. He saw children cautiously climbing the repaired slides and swinging gently, their laughter blending with the soft sounds of the town coming back to life. Liam noticed how even small efforts could bring happiness, and he felt a quiet joy in knowing that he had contributed to it. The biker approached him, standing quietly for a moment. "You've come a long way since the storm," he said. "You've learned that courage isn't about being fearless, it's about taking action even when you are." Liam nodded, remembering every challenge he had faced, every person he had helped, every small act that had taught him something new. He realized now that courage was more than a single moment. It was a habit, a way of living. He felt proud not because he had done extraordinary things, but because he had tried over and over despite fear and uncertainty. As evening approached, the town gathered in the square to celebrate the progress they had made. People brought food, shared stories of their experiences during the storm, and thanked each other for the help they had received. Liam stood quietly, watching the community he had helped support. He felt a deep connection to everyone around him, a sense of belonging he hadn't felt before the storm. He thought about the biker, who had disappeared quietly as the day ended, but whose lessons remained vivid in Liam's mind. The man had shown him that even strangers could make a profound difference, that guidance and encouragement could help someone grow in ways they hadn't imagined. Liam realized that true bravery wasn't just about facing danger. It was about inspiring courage in others and offering help without expecting anything in return. That night, Liam lay in bed, reflecting on everything he had experienced. He remembered the fear he had felt during the storm, the trembling in his hands, the racing of his heart. He remembered the moments when he had acted, small though they were, and how those moments had given him strength. He thought about the people he had helped, the laughter of the children, the relief in neighbors' eyes, and the simple joy of knowing he had made a difference. He whispered to himself, softly but with certainty, "I understand now. Courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is what you do when you're scared. It's about helping, trying, and never giving up, even when things seem impossible." In the following days, Liam continued to explore the town, helping where he could. He assisted with cleaning up fallen branches, planting new flowers, and checking on neighbors who needed support. Each act, no matter how small, reminded him of the lessons he had learned. He felt more confident, more capable, and more connected to the world around him. The storm had left its mark on the town, but it had also left a mark on Liam. He understood now that challenges, whether big or small, were opportunities to discover strength, kindness, and resilience. The fear he had once felt had transformed into determination and hope. He knew that life would bring new storms, some literal, some metaphorical, but he was ready to face them with courage and compassion. One afternoon, as he walked along the edge of town, he whispered to the empty street, thinking of the biker who had guided him. "Maybe God didn't send the storm to punish me. Maybe he just gave me a chance to see who I can be." Liam smiled, feeling the truth of his words deep in his heart. He had discovered something far more valuable than he could have imagined: the ability to face fear, help others, and grow stronger with every challenge. He realized that the world was full of storms, but also full of kindness, bravery, and opportunity. And with that knowledge, he felt ready to meet the future, whatever it might hold. The town continued to recover piece by piece, with neighbors helping each other and life returning to its steady rhythm. But for Liam, the lessons of the storm would remain forever. He understood now that bravery could be quiet, gentle, and persistent. It wasn't about being a hero in stories. It was about living with courage, acting with kindness, and facing challenges with a brave heart. As the sun set, casting golden light across the streets and buildings, Liam sat by the window of his home. He thought about the days that had passed, the storm, the people he had helped, and the lessons he had learned. He felt a deep sense of peace and confidence, knowing that he could face whatever came next. The world outside was calm, but inside Liam, a fire had been kindled, a fire of courage, kindness, and hope. He understood now that storms would come again in many forms, but he was ready. Because bravery wasn't something distant or magical. It was something that grew inside a person, nurtured by action, compassion, and the choice to try, even when afraid. And so Liam closed his eyes that night, heart full, mind clear, and a smile on his lips, knowing that he had learned the most important lesson of all, that courage, love, and kindness could light even the darkest storm, guiding him and those around him toward a brighter tomorrow.